right, so those that know me personally or have come to classes in Canada or the U.S. Know that there's sort of a certain base level that I recommend for equipment. I tell guys to stay away from like the $500 scopes, $300 scopes, and stuff like that, because they simply are not reliable. And so I've been thinking about how to explain this to people, because what they initially see is the cost, the initial cost, and they don't see anything else. So one of the things that I study in school right now is macroeconomics, politics, macroeconomics, bunch of other fun stuff, language and that kind of thing. And so there's a term in economics, and it's called opportunity cost. And I'm going to take it right out of Wikipedia here. Significance of opportunity cost in decision making. So because people face trade-offs, making decisions requires comparing the costs and benefits of alternative costs of action. So basically what they're saying is, how much is it going to cost you to select to buy one thing over another? What's the opportunity cost? What are you losing out by spending $500 on a scope, for instance, versus spending $1,500 on a scope, or $25,000 or $3,000 on a scope? And so they use the example, the cost of going to college. And the cost of going to college, I mean, we like to look at it as tuition, books, your cost of living, food, and your time. But on top of that, the opportunity cost is your lost wages, for instance. So for example, myself leaving, being a federal officer in Canada and going back to school, there's that loss of $88,000 a year. So for 4 years, that's, what is that? 172 times 2. I mean, that's like almost $350,000 in lost wages right there. So that's an opportunity cost, for example. So when it comes to selecting, optics, whether it's red dots or scopes or an AR, or a rifle or something like that, there's lots of good stuff, and technology's trickling down, and stuff on the top end is just gradually sort of tapering and leveling off right now. I mean, for instance, you can get ARs like my Lewis Machine and Tools. They're all laser accurate. They're just as accurate as my bolt guns are. They all shoot a single hole. But I spent the money for those. And here's why I did that. I could have actually gone out last year and I could have bought an AR for less than $500. Okay? The cost to me, though, would have been not being able to afford a better one that's as accurate as I needed to have it, having to wait even longer, and then not getting the results that I need for developing a course that I'm developing. So right away, I would have lost out on developing that course. I would have spent more money trying to achieve the same thing. I would have spent more time trying to achieve the same thing, because I would have had to accurize that rifle as well. And then possibly when that rifle failed or broke, I would have ended up having to go out and buy an LMT at the same, anyways. So then I would have been out that initial $500. So if you look at scopes and stuff like that, and cheap optics, and these crap red dots that are made in Chinese and come with a lifetime warranty and all that kind of crap, I mean, just know that these companies have so many failures that, when they're offering these lifetime warranties and they go back, never mind. You can figure that out. Certain companies are building huge repair facilities because they have so many failures. Now, we need to become better consumers. We really do. You need to be a better consumer than your wife. And for the wives out there that are listening, you need to teach your husbands to be better consumers, and you need to be more possessive, more valuing in the things that you buy. So wait longer to buy it, save your money, buy once, cry once, and look after what you have, and learn to make do with what you have. Most of us don't realize the potential that we can achieve, like with what we actually already have. Now, what I did, my personal choices, in the last few years, is I waited and I bought what I wanted when I could afford it. So for instance, like with my MWS system from Lewis Machine and Tool, I waited 8 years for that rifle. No regrets. Huge amount of money into that rifle. Most expensive rifle I own. And absolutely no regrets. And you know what? I know that rifle will be good for me for the rest of my life and probably into my kids' lives if I look after it well. I knew that, you know, if I went out and bought something cheap, I'd have to go through all these different processes. I'd spend more time, gas, frustration, mental energy, all of that, trying to just get it up to a level where LMT Defense already has their rifle if I just start from there. So I'm already starting from a base level where I've got maximum reliability. The same, you know, I go back to the scopes again. It's even worse with these cheap optics and stuff. If you buy cheap optics, they will fail. And, you know, I once had a friend who, you know, told me how much he loved this certain red dot optic that he bought for super cheap, and, you know, it was good enough for him. And then in the same sentence tells me that it's got the you know, red ring of death. And I'm like, what? Okay, what's that? He's like, oh, that's where this certain company, you know, they're known for this failure of their holographic sights. And I'm like, okay, so what is your opportunity cost there? Well, if you ever have to use that in a defensive situation in the dark, you might not be able to see your target. Your target might be able to see you. Your opportunity cost is that you die. So, I mean, think about that. Start putting it together. Look up opportunity cost, study it a little bit, and start thinking a little bit better, you know, along those lines of, you know, as to how that works. What's the opportunity cost to having 100 guns? The opportunity cost is that you don't have food storage, you don't have ammo storage, you don't have water filtration, you may not have the camping gear, survival gear, and first aid gear, the training, or any of that stuff that you actually need to be really proficient and ready for, you know, the upcoming apocalypse, if you believe in that. So there is trade-offs. I mean, opportunity cost equals trade-offs. So what I'd encourage you to do is just wait, be patient, be a better consumer. Don't buy into all the hype. You don't need to go out and buy the latest, greatest new product out there. What you need to do is find what the product is find the product that you need for you for the long term, and then just stay with that. You know, I can use other examples. I get asked a lot of times about the 6.5 PRC. It's probably a really nice cartridge and stuff, but to me, the opportunity cost with that cartridge is much, much more expensive ammo than the 6.5 Creedmoor, and for the average Joe, they're never ever going to use the potential of that cartridge unless they're a competitor or something like that. And even then, the opportunity cost there is pretty high, you know, over the 6.5 Creedmoor. Where I think they could be better off spending that money rather than switching out, you know, to a cartridge like that, is where they put the money into training. For instance, become better at calling the wind. You know, buy a 308 and become better at, you know, calling the wind on that, and then go back to your 6.5 for competitions, for instance. So, I mean, think a little deeper into these things, guys. Don't be fooled into buying all the crap out there. I mean, I've been burned. I learned the hard way when I first got into this stuff too. I still have a scope that I, you know, is my first long range scope that I absolutely hate. It's no zero stop, second focal plane, and I mean, it's just a pain in the butt. Quarter MOA with a mil dot or with a mil hash reticle, and quarter MOA adjustments on the top and half on the side. Could not be more confusing. If I'd spent like a couple $100 more, I could have, or just waited a little bit, I could have bought a much better first focal plane scope and then been so much happier and had so much more success. So I've seen this where it's burned guys on courses too, and I mean, you can add that to the opportunity cost as well, where guys show up with a cheap scope and then it breaks halfway through a course. Or, you know, they go to other courses and, you know, they don't listen to what the instructor's saying, even though it's a world-class instructor with world record-setting shots, and then, you know, come to my class and then second guess what that other instructor has, you know, basically look for me to pat them on the back and give them a hug and tell them that they're right, even though they're you know, their equipment is horrible. Their opportunity cost there were that, you know, they spent 3 days of training with me, in which time we had to spend time resetting up their rifle, zeroing it, and wasting everybody else's time on courses. Now, that might sound kind of harsh and everything, but that's the cost, you know. That's the opportunity cost. I mean, that's having a $1,000 scope in not proper rings and not properly set up on a cheap rifle versus having a $2,000 to $3,000 scope in solid rings and a solid setup, and then just setting and forgetting and checking it, you know, once a year for torque. So that was kind of a long video. I hope it made sense. I'm really hoping you guys are going to get some value out of this. Again, like I said in my other video, this channel is not meant for the lowest common denominator. I couldn't care less if you're going to second guess, you know, how and why I do things and stuff like that. And I hope you guys understand why I don't share tactics. I don't share how-tos on this channel. If you want to come and learn stuff, you can come through to the courses, and man, you will be flying. You'll see the opportunity cost right there is very low for taking that course, because you will save so much time, money, effort, frustration, and research time. And I mean, you can spend that time with your family doing whatever you want to do and still be successful at long range. So that's it, guys. I'm going to get into some reviews. I've got a little bit of a mail call Sunday going on. Family's all sick and I'm just getting over something. So let's get at it. I want to talk to you about some awesome products I've been trying out. And we're actually going to unwrap some new products, including the Endo Snake, some Amend 2 mags. I've used these a bunch now, really love them, but I'm going to explain why I really love them. And what else do we have? A few other things, I think. Oh, we've got the new Fix-It sticks. So, okay, guys, thanks for listening to my rants, if you did. And I really hope that, you know, this is valuable information to you guys. And I hope that, you know, we'll have a bit of a paradigm shift in the gun community as to how we purchase, what we purchase, and understanding what that opportunity cost is. Because, I mean, for instance, having 100 guns and no food supply, your opportunity cost is that you're going to die.